Welcome to my super type A attempt at being Zen, the podcast. My name is Risha York, and I will be your host. If you are overworked, overtired, overstretched, overwhelmed, and just over it, you are in the right place. We like to say we are currently working towards Zen-ish. I'm thrilled that you've joined us. Let's see who will be supporting us on our path to Zen today. Hello and welcome back to my super type A attempt at being Zen, the podcast. Our guest today is Yvonne Heath, and I am so excited to have her here today. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Welcome, Yvonne.
Thank you kindly, my dear friend. And it's funny because I usually listen to my intro and go, oh my God, did I really do all that? So I'm going to try to say what I hear. And it's been an amazing journey. And it started, of course, with a 27-year nursing career where I worked in the United States, Canada, in every department, including emerge, chemotherapy, hospice, ICU, I mean, all of it. And I realized, well, I didn't realize in my career, but I realized that we are ill prepared as a society for grief, transitions, end of life. We don't normalize these conversations, and we suffer excessively because of it. And I suffered excessively in my career. So in 2015, I took a leap of faith, left my nursing career to blaze a new trail. I founded Love Your Life to Death. I wrote a book called Love Your Life to Death. None of that was ever on my vision board, PS.
Right.
And then I founded the I Just Showed Up movement, where we teach people of all ages how to become more resilient and empowered so they can just show up for themselves and each other when grief and life's challenges arrive. So it's been an extraordinary journey. We are very passionate about supporting the supporters, those caring for others, teaching others, and just really all of those who are in service. And I always share that in 2019, I delivered my TEDx talk. Do you know anything about that, Risha?
I do.
Transforming our grief by just showing up. And so it's been an extraordinary journey. Again, leaving my nursing career to do all of these things was never anything I envisioned. I am just, my flawed, goofy self, usually found at home in socks and sandals and big baggy track pants and in the garden or with our twins and all of our pets and my wonderful husband, Jordy. And
fun.
Here in Muskoka. So yes, that is a Reader's Digest glimpse of my 58-year journey, because that's how long I've been here.
That's amazing. And so, like you said, you didn't start in this career you're doing now. You started in nursing. Can you tell us what brought you to this current career?
Oh, absolutely. 2 words: excessive suffering.
Sure, fair.
Excessive suffering, which it's interesting because I in reflecting back on that, realized that I did suffer excessively throughout my life, as many of us do as kids, as teenagers, trying to fit in, trying to be what we weren't, not being our authentic selves. And I said I could probably be the poster adult for ADHD. So, back when I went to school, ADHD wasn't a thing. I just was one of those annoying kids who didn't sit still, right? And didn't focus, as if I chose to do that. And then I became a parent. And, as many of us know, we are experts at parenting until we become one.
Right, of course.
It's just this all-consuming thing. And I got married and then realized I married an alcoholic or someone who someone who had a problem with alcohol. I always say person first, no matter what.
Sure, yep.
And so from there, I had become a nurse. I didn't know what else to do. I was traveling. I called my mom saying, you might as well accept that I'll never live where there's snow again. Okay, well, then I got divorced and came crawling home to Huntsville, Ontario, where there's lots of snow with my 2.5-year-old. And, it was just such a dark time in my life.
Sure.
The hospital wasn't hiring, so I couldn't get a job as a nurse. I was now a single parent. I was living in my parents' basement at 31. So no one, right? That is not anything anyone wishes for at
Right.
31. And I just thought, wow, what happened to my life? And in reflecting back to that, it's a beautiful story because you never know what awaits on the other side of grief.
100%. Yep.
So moving forward, I got hired at the hospital. And then I did, a little innocent flirting with this cute paramedic who, P.S., was much younger than me. So it was never going to go anywhere. We were just having fun.
Yep.
Well, in September, we will celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary.
Amazing.
Right? Had twins at 40. And, I was working at the hospital and life was good until it wasn't again.
Right.
And then Jordy also adopted my son Tyler, which was like, as a mom, that's just everything you could wish for, this amazing man. And then when Tyler was 16, he faced a lot of grief and trauma in his life. And then at 16, he had a snowboarding injury where he wrecked his knee and that crushed his snowboarding. He wanted to be a pro snowboarder. He had just gotten his license. And so he went down a very dangerous road of drugs and addiction.
Right.
Now, you think, in those dark times, like when I was at 31 as a single mom, I could have never envisioned having twins and finding the love of my life and all these great things and having a job. And then again, here at this time where this my child, was slipping through my fingers. And it was like in that moment, two things happened. I thought I could outlive my child. And I couldn't even say those words because I thought, I don't think I would survive that. Like, I don't think I would survive that. Like, I just remember thinking that. And now I have 2 other children.
Yeah.
So if I didn't survive, or, we all know people.
What are the repercussions?
Well, and we all know people who are living, they have a pulse, but they are not living because they're so consumed with their grief.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like I hit emotional rock bottom. I could not control what my child was doing, and I was doing everything I could.
Yeah.
And the second thing was the big epiphany aha moment that led to this new path. I was in healthcare. My husband is a paramedic. We had great friends. And in this darkest time of mine, some people were there for me, while many avoided me.
Right.
Many wouldn't ask the question. I pretended I was fine when I wasn't. I think everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
And and people were like ants when I walked in. They just like scattered because I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. They're going through
heavy.
Stuff. It's heavy.
Yeah.
And people want to fix things. And when they can't,
They
right? They avoid.
Yeah.
And I will tell you right now, and there's no blame, there's no shame, there's learning, unlearning, and evolving.
Yeah.
I realized in that moment, I was like, wow. I realize when people don't know what to do, they don't know what to say, they are compassionate. They're just so terrified to make it worse.
Yeah.
And so I went to work. I was surrounded by healthcare professionals, and I just said, like, are we healthcare professionals well prepared for grief, death, dying, transitions? And everyone's like, oh God, no, we're terrible at it. No. And off they went. And so in that darkest time again, I said, you know what? I have a choice here. I can continue to suffer excessively and ignore the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The elephant is always in the room. Or I could empower myself and figure out how to do this differently.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and isn't it incredible in those darkest times, in those times of struggle? So first of all, we always have a choice. We have a choice to stay there or learn, unlearn, and evolve and find supportive people and
Yeah.
be the change in our lives, or stay there and suffer excessively because we will be supported in our, oh,
Yeah.
poor thing, this happened, it's so hard. And so that was just the catalyst that catapulted me on this new journey of doing things differently.
Yeah. It's so interesting. All my aunts are nurses. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, no, I did not. No.
And it's amazing to watch them negotiate these end of life moments because they're faced with it every day at work, every single day, right? And
Absolutely.
and then also hear them talk about others in the profession, like, oh, if you're a surgeon, you just got to turn it all off, otherwise you can't focus. And I'm like, how? Really? Gosh. As someone who's extremely empathetic, I don't think I could do that. I can't turn that off.
Well, there's so many problems, and that's what we do, right? We build our armor, right?
Yeah,
I can't feel too much for this patient, this family in this tragedy, because then I will suffer excessively. And I will tell you right now, we've all done that. And the absolute opposite is true. The
right.
opposite is true. And as an empath, we also need to, so we have to double down on our skills and our learning to be able to give. And, we talk a lot about compassion fatigue. And I say, like, here's the problem with how it's about reframing. There's a lot of reframing. Of course, there's always more to do and more to give than we can.
Yeah,
And so if we can, with healthy boundaries, which are very simply, in this moment, what am I able to do and what am I not able to do in this moment? Because that changes.
all the time. Yeah,
Like tomorrow, I could be able to, you know what? I've got this going on. I've got everything. I've got surplus. Dun, da, da, da. I'm
yeah.
like Zen plus, and today I'm like, oh, I gotta fill my bucket because
Not
I'm
today. Yeah,
depleted. So
yeah.
if we learn to check in, and the problem with that armor, you think, oh, I can't give too much because then I'm gonna run out and I will burn out, compassion fatigue. However, you're also blocking the good stuff,
Right.
receiving. And we celebrate, right? We've normalized a lot of the wrong things in our society. Oh, he's so amazing. She's so amazing. She gives, and puts herself last. And I say, oh, wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. What can you do to change that?
Yeah,
Let's celebrate the give and receiving, right? I said we have to get good at the get.
yeah,
Get clear about what you can and can't do right now. Get help, get authentic, get real, get checking in
yeah. Because how
so
often
that
have
we
you
can
met
receive.
someone? How often have you met someone that struggles to receive a gift or time or anything, really? Right? You say
Compliment.
a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're having this conversation with, oh, not me. Oh, not for me. Oh, you don't have to. Oh, don't go to all that trouble. And I appreciate that you're trying to be humble, but at the same time, at what point do you let people in to help? At
But
what
we've
point?
normalized that though, right? We celebrate the person and I'm going to say in the
Yeah,
past, we've celebrated the person that's just giving and doesn't require anything. And it's okay. I don't want to burden anyone, but they're there for everyone. And they're like
yeah,
dragging themselves along. We have celebrated the martyr. We have given gold stars for that. And I say it's time for change because when we talk about mental health issues, well, what do we expect?
yeah. I mean,
What do we
that's
expect?
compassion burnout is if you are just giving and giving and giving and giving and never actually getting anything for yourself or allowing yourself to receive.
And allowing yourself to receive, having healthy boundaries. And I mean, there's just so many big pieces.
Yeah.
Um, as a society, we are very reactive, not proactive, right? We wait till we're in crisis and then we try to navigate through. So what if before, right? And that's my whole thing. And it's funny because people say, oh, Yvonne, she talks about grief, she's a death expert and all these things that people call me, death diva, death whatever. And what I say, I am a proactive living consultant. Let's say I'm a PLC. And that's weird for people because I said, like when I started this, I said, well, we need to talk about, plan, and prepare before. We need to build a foundation. We
Yeah.
need to have coping skills, strategies. And the number one thing we need to do is that solid concrete foundation. What do we believe about life and death?
Right.
Where do we talk about that? Throughout life, we do not.
No.
If we want to remove the excessive suffering, that is where we need to start. What do you believe about life and death? So, like when you say the people who are present and people are dying, you will avoid that compassion fatigue, burnout, if you understand and accept. You don't have to like it. Elephant in the room. We do not all die of old age, and we do not always get a warning. And that is very right. That is so hard for us to accept. We do not always know what's going on inside someone,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
mentally, physically, or emotionally. Oh my gosh, like this happened, like this person died by suicide and they seem so happy. And my gosh. Or Joe just died of a heart attack. I mean, he jogged 5 kilometers a day. What happened?
Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason.
And the suffering also. So that belief about life and death, and not getting consumed by the why.
Right.
Why did this happen? When I worked in chemotherapy in particular for over 15 years, I used to drag myself home. Like,
I'm sure.
and like, and I was funny, and Patch Adams is my hero, and I dressed silly, and I was compassionate, and all these fun things. And I did not have that really belief about life and death that created a soft landing for myself. I did not have coping skills and strategies. I wanted to fix it. I couldn't understand why.
And regardless of how you're showing up at work, regardless of
Exactly.
how you're there, you know, all Patch Adams, clowny, whatever, that can be a mask for everything else, right? And so you can compartmentalize and put all those things on hold and show up as your best self, which I always find very entertaining, and then come home and be a slug because you are now processing. And it's kind of
Or
about
numbing.
or numbing, right?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
now how do you find that balance? So where do you find that ability to show up in your workspace as you all the time authentically? And if it's a bad day, giving yourself permission to feel the ways of that.
So I'm going to go back to the balance thing. I would say that balance is a complete illusion, just like control. Like to think that we're going to have balance is, I believe, is unrealistic, because here's the thing. Like, there are times when a student is doing exams in university.
Mm-hmm.
They're cramming, they're
Yeah.
crunching. This is go time. When you are giving birth, there's no balance in that. Like, it's
Yeah,
like,
no.
do
But
you know
I
what I mean? Like, there, but the to feel like, yes, to me, if we can allow and understand that grief and joy can coexist. Number
yeah,
one, grief and joy can coexist. And to me, it's kind of like a roller coaster. And
of
sometimes you're just
course.
like, oh, I'm riding the wave, I'm doing great. And then I just had a spill.
Yeah.
And to be able to acknowledge and allow our hard feelings along the way. And you know what, I my 3 H's, I said, live by these: heart, humor, and humanness. I laugh at myself all the time. I am very flawed, imperfect. So our older son is 29. Our twins, Jade, so Tyler's 29. Our twins are Jade and 10 are 18. They are going to university in June. They are going to camp, or in September, they're going to camp in June. By the time they leave, I will have had children at home for 30 years.
Right.
There's tremendous grief or tremendous joy in thinking, oh my God, like Jordy and I already said, like, we are going to eat cheese and crackers and nachos and salsa for dinners. I'm never making another meal ever. Like, I don't want to. However, the grief that I understand, and I'm so, even in good transitions, this is a
Yeah.
wonderful transition. I'm so excited for them. And my heart is like exploding with grief, joy. I'm a mess.
Yes.
Yesterday, we're
I get
sitting on
that.
the couch, we're talking about things. And for me, it's like when it's April, oh, now we're like so close, right?
Yeah.
Whoa. And I'm sitting there and we're just having a nice conversation. All of a sudden, I said to them, the veil of control is like the veil is very thin. Like you could say one word to me, you could say the word April, and the tears are going to flow. I'm just
Yeah.
warning, warning, warning. And they're like, I know, Mom. And I've already apologized for how I'm going to be at their grad. Like I'm going to be a hot mess. And suddenly they said the word April, and tears were like just like pouring out of my
Yeah.
face. And I was laughing at myself and I was crying. And my son's videoing me. He's like, this is a good mom. Oh, and they're hysterical. And I'm
Yeah.
crying my eyes out. And I'm like, I'm going to miss you. And I'm so happy. And I'm like, it's
Yeah.
just, imagine if we all acknowledged and allowed our good feelings, our hard feelings, all the messiness. And again, back to that balance. I know like right now we have 2.5 months to do so many things that I have to take moments, right, to go, okay. I mean, like doctor's appointments and dentists and glasses and all these things and scholarships
Sure.
and
Yeah.
like
Get
and
prepped.
it's times two.
Yeah.
So I share that because I'm so grateful to realize that, emotions are a roller coaster. Sometimes we're coasting and it's wonderful. And sometimes we do feel more zen than other times and very balanced.
Yeah.
The thing when I'm falling apart, that where I can get back to that place. And, we talk about the breath and we talk about pausing, and we've really undervalued that.
Mm.
Because when I'm doing this, if I can sit outside and just give myself a moment to just slow down the pace. If you say, I don't have time, I say, well, what can you do to change that? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't accept that, because 2 minutes of total stillness, of listening to some music, whatever works for you, nature,
Yeah.
calms the nervous system,
Yeah.
right? And can get you back even in the chaotic times,
Yeah. Your
even in the chaotic
parasympathetic
times.
nervous system, right? Like just bringing it back to reset.
Absolutely. And so when we talk about, you said just showing up, and that's my movement, the I just showed up movement. And that's what my TEDx talk was. I talked about when we don't know what to do, we don't know what to say. The magic answer is just show up. Just show up. You do not need a PhD
Yeah.
to support, to love. Your job is not there to fix it or to change the outcome. And so when you say, how do you just show up? If someone is in grieving or in crisis, I know that I can love and support them. And I know my job is not to judge, fix. This is their journey.
Right.
This is their journey. I don't know why. And I will tell you that relieving suffering or being able to just show up for someone, maybe just relieving their suffering a little bit, you get so
Oh
much
yeah.
more back. So all
Yeah.
those people with the armor are missing that
Yeah.
part by thinking they're protecting themselves. And it's
Yeah.
so sad.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. So your new movement, you've moved now from nursing into this amazing, what do you call it again? Tell me the title.
Well, I like, so it's interesting because there's like little pieces. So the love your life to death to me is sort of the umbrella of, I've connected with beautiful, amazing people from around the world. I share resources so that we can all learn how to just show up for ourselves and each other. And in my book, I shared stories, people ages 11 to 101, and it was life-changing for me.
Yeah.
And so I took all of that, and the I just showed up movement is for people of all ages. I wanted to bring it to every school,
Yeah.
right? Like
Makes sense.
imagine if every student, teacher, healthcare professional had their I just showed up bracelet, which reminds you that it's non-negotiable to just show up for yourself first.
Right.
And we talk about self-care, and I say to people, here's the thing. I just did a training in New York region with some amazing social workers and community paramedics and other paramedics. It was amazing. And I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell people that they need to eat well, drink well, check in with their stress level, get fresh air and movement. If you're not doing any of that, I mean, that's just your
It's the bare
gas
minimum.
in your car.
Yeah.
If we are going to be of service, in any capacity, if we are going to, even in your family, you're going to have children, if whatever you may be doing, it is non-negotiable to, it's like I said, double dip on that self-care at a different level where you become proactive,
Right.
where you're having those hard conversations, talk about, plan and prepare for grief, transitions, end of life, long before it arrives, and diffuse the fear, ongoing learning, unlearning, and evolving. And I say to everyone, how do we get good at anything? How do you get good at something?
Practice, right?
You practice.
Yeah.
You practice. What do we do when it comes to the hardest conversations and the most challenging part of this journey we call life?
Yeah, we avoid.
We avoid, and then we wonder
Why is
why we
this so
weren't
hard?
able.
Yeah.
I mean, uh, my God.
Yeah.
And we're so afraid to get it wrong. And I say, here, let me just let you off the hook. You're gonna get it wrong.
Oh, of course. It's so funny. The joke I made to my mother like 2 weeks before she died, actually, was she was like, okay, I need you to do this and that and this and that. And then I was like, okay, look, we're not going to get everything right. So
Good for you.
don't haunt me. And she went, what? Are you seriously worried about that? I'm like, have you met you? If
Have you hurt
anyone
yourself?
can come back from the death to tell me what to do and give me shit, it's going to be
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And she was like, wow, if you're worried about that, that's your problem. I just laughed. I was like, no,
You laughed.
it's all of our problems.
But you laughed in that hard conversation. And isn't that so extraordinary? So when you're
Yeah.
thinking back, and now I'm smiling thinking of that conversation, because you can have that banter and that silliness and those real conversations. And you can tell people, I'm worried that you're kind of going to haunt me, and laugh and allow the tears and allow the laughter, allow all of it. So just so you know, I know you have been through so much tremendous grief, and you see, I'm just gonna just let you. So I am mandated to make at least one person cry a day. So
I
thank
cry like
you.
10 times a day. So
Good for
that's
you.
pretty par for the course in my house. I actually, another funny story is I very recently did a keynote for a group of teachers.
Nice.
And teachers set me off because my mother was a teacher. So it's it's high emotion stepping in the room. And every time I'm like, I'm not gonna cry. And
You silly woman. Of course you are.
I know, of course I am. Because I cry at everything. So the first chat I ever did for them was actually in the middle of COVID, and it was a remote keynote. And I cried at the beginning because I was like, you guys are amazing. I don't know how you guys are even handling this. This is intense. No one's ever asked you to do anything like this before, and it's awful. I just want you to know I see you. I can't imagine what you're dealing with. Right? So then, of course, they invite me back. I leave that keynote being like, oh God, like
Oh
they're
God, I
never
really
gonna
palmed
ask me
that.
back. Like, oh, bring the crier in.
Yeah.
Um, so I leave that keynote being like, gee, I wonder how that went. And then last year they brought me in to do a group facilitation, and that
So
was
what does that
great.
tell you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always showing up as authentically me. I'm never going to pretend to be in a space or, toe a line, or that's not who I am as a human being. And so, the facilitation of the group thing went amazing. And then they called me about this keynote, and I was like, great, I'm so excited. And I'm like talking to myself on the way there, like, okay, Risha, I mean, it's all cute that you cried the first time, but maybe like this time we don't. Like, just,
Yeah.
you know, and I get in front of them and I'm like, oh my God. Every time. And I was like, it's you guys, you do it to me. I
It's all
really
your fault.
feel so heavily for teachers, right?
Oh,
And afterwards, it was amazing because, I also teach people how to create a crowd when you're speaking to someone, how to create unity in the crowd so that they're listening and they're
beautiful.
present with you, right? It's part of my job.
Mm.
And in that moment, though it wasn't what I had intended, it was
Yep.
so authentic, it unified the room.
Beautiful.
And then afterwards, people came up to me and they were like, I'm a crier too. It was so
Yeah.
nice to see you just like be so
Just be
you,
you.
which
Changing
I
people's
really
perspective.
appreciate. It was so nice to hear that, especially because, I come from my prior background was in a corporate world, and that is not acceptable there.
And that's what I want to change. Let me tell you.
Same here. And I had a great conversation with someone yesterday who's going to be on a future podcast. I can't wait to share that. She's a director in a corporate level company. And we both talked about how specifically that's not fair for anyone, but predominantly women. It's women are so in touch with their emotions and so empathetic as just a societal upbringing. And then we put them in corporate spaces and say, oh, here you can't do that.
It's not realistic, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have oh, there's so much to talk about. So first of all, I'm working with this wonderful organization, Pallium, which is a national organization that wants to ensure that every Canadian has access to palliative care. Now, palliative care is not at end of life. Palliative care is something that is a wonderful thing to bring in when someone has a diagnosis that is life limiting or life altering. It's about
Right.
comfort, and it is all our compassionate communities all need to be a part of it, because we have complicated, sanitized, medicalized, and professionalized everything, right? Like we think that, right, all this is all for healthcare, and they need to take care of it. And when you're in corporate, you check your humanness at the door, and that's not realistic. So we're actually working on a compassionate workplace campaign, right? Because we need to teach people how to just show up
Yeah.
for themselves and each other no matter what. Our workplace is a part of our must be a part of our compassion community, because here's the aha moment and the statistic. People can check it on pallium.ca. 35% of our workforce is also caregiving for someone.
Right.
35%.
And what a
We,
heavy load to bear on top of your
and then pretend you're
deadlines
fine.
and and you can't expect people to not show up with other things on their mind.
Well, it's and the thing is that when we can acknowledge and allow people's feelings, what they're going through, it diffuses it so that they can just show up. And if they have a cry, you don't fall apart like, oh my God, Risha's crying. Like this is like, oh, Risha, here, why don't you take 5 minutes?
Exactly.
Right? Like just, and that's that heart humor, humanness, bringing in the humanness. And
Yes.
and if and here's the thing again, why would we know how to do this? This has not been the norm. We've
No.
normalized a lot of the wrong things. And so instead of just being frustrated, I say, in the past, this is what the expectation was. And now moving forward, we understand that this creates mental, physical, emotional health issues. We can do this differently. And by just showing up for ourselves and each other at work, in our communities, wherever we may be, we can make a difference. And
Absolutely.
people can allow their humanness. And so in from all of the incredible humans, and by the way, I'm most passionate about supporting the supporters, those who are caregiving for our seniors, and also our educators, because I have a
Yeah.
right, our educators, I mean, they can go through, they can be going through tremendous grief. And I mean, let's just stop to say grief isn't just when someone dies.
No, it
Grief
can
is
be anything.
experienced in any heartache,
Yeah.
in any transition, divorce, diagnosis, job loss, mental health issues, children
Yeah.
leaving home, children not leaving home,
And you're
whatever it
doing
may
that with a
be.
class of 30 at your toes. Like, and
Everyone's
you're
grieving
showing up
something.
for them every day. It's pretty incredible.
Well,
I think
it's
that's pretty cool.
unrealistic. And again, as we said, like, how do you get good practice? Well, we don't even
We
talk about this stuff.
don't. Yeah.
So with all of this, and in the past many years of speaking to literally thousands of people, I am continuously learning, unlearning, evolving. And I wasn't sure I was going to share these, but I'd love to share. So the 7 takeaways are what I feel are the essential, like that I created principles so that we can live life to the fullest, learn to grieve and support one another, and yes, have the talk
Yep.
about end of life long before it arrives, and diffuse the fear. So Do you want me to just share those with you
Sure.
quickly? I
Yeah, that'd
can,
be great.
and then, because again, it's about creating that foundation, right?
Yeah.
So obviously the elephant in the room, the hardest, that very bottom concrete foundation. The best time to talk about plan and prepare for grief transitions and end of life is when we are young and healthy.
Sure.
And the next best time is now. Let's normalize these conversations throughout life, at home, at school, in the workplace. Let's stop pretending that, I still hear kids, oh, don't talk about that. That's, like someone's dying. Don't talk about that. That's awful. And it's like, there's opportunities to talk about children, and these poor death phobic adults are terrified because they
Yeah.
don't know what to do and they don't know what to say. So I invite everyone to be compassionate with themselves.
Yeah.
You don't know how to do this because we haven't done it.
Right. Yeah.
So lean into it.
Yeah.
Lean into it and understand that even in good transitions, like kids going to university,
Yeah.
allow your grief, allow your joy and your humanness. There's no reason for you to know how to do this,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Makes sense.
Right. And takeaway number 2 is that it takes a village. It takes a village to support those who are ill, caregiving, dying, bereaved, marginalized, and each other. We all need to be a part of that compassionate community. It is not just about the healthcare. Healthcare professionals will be there about 10% of the time.
Right.
That's another big revelation that, and again, you can see that on Pallium. People believe that in chronic illness or the dying process, the healthcare system is going to magically take care of everyone and that they will be a part of
Right.
the journey. 90% or more will be up to our compassionate community. And yet we live in silos of silence and isolation. Many of us don't even know our neighbors.
Right. Yeah.
I say to people, start with your neighborhood, create your compassionate neighborhood. Because even if you have friends and family that are compassionate and want to be there for you, they have jobs, they may live far
Yeah.
away. Your
Yep.
neighbor's right next
Absolutely.
door,
Yep. Absolutely.
right? That is the place to start. We just moved to this new place 2 years ago. I went around my neighborhood. I wrote down people's names and it's like, okay, well, we won't be visiting that person. And this person, yes, if I need to go to the hospital, if Jordy does, yep, this person can come
Yeah.
over. Oh, this person over here can take care of our dog. Like
Yeah.
immediately.
It's funny, we moved up here for that purpose. We used to live at Yonge and Eglinton in Toronto,
Mm.
and we knew our direct neighbor and a very good friend lived in the building next to us. But I was told at a young age, probably 24, 25, that I couldn't have children. And then
Mm.
at 33, they were like, "Oh, oops, actually, you can."
Wow.
And
So I
I
was
was
gonna say,
like,
but you have children.
"Oh, okay, well, that actually changes our
Everything.
plans, I guess." And when we talked about having children in the city, I said, we don't really have the support down here and we don't have community. And frankly, as an only child from a single parent, I saw how important that
Mm.
was. And I saw how you have to build your community and your family and that's so important. And I was like, I don't think we can do that here without the supports in place. So we talked a lot about moving outside the city, ended up landing just about 90 minutes north in a place that we never dreamed we would ever live, but always wanted to. And it was like, okay, I think this is not only a lovely place to raise children, but this community is so tight knit and everybody's so
Mm.
friendly. And it
Mm.
felt like walking on the set of Gilmore Girls or something. And
Ooh,
it's
nice.
just so
Amazing.
lovely. The people are so nice. And
Mm.
so it really contributed to us feeling
Beautiful.
stable enough to have this family.
That is so extraordinary. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we all understood that?
Yeah.
And here you were very intentional. You're like, I don't think I can have this here. I'm going to change because we can
Yeah.
and create. your community. People say, oh, they're all alone in the world. They don't have children. I say, well, they don't have to be your biological, your
No,
community, family, friends, neighbors. And I'm sorry, in this world of church, there's your church members, there's Rotary clubs, there's seniors, people like they reach out,
there's so
create
many
your
options.
community.
Yeah,
There's
there's
so
so
many
many.
options,
Mhm.
right? And the other thing is, and here's that whole, I want to change the paradigm as well. We're also so good at, oh, I don't want to bother them, or it's like, you know what?
No.
Somebody, you care about someone, so you go and shovel their walkway because they're elderly and they're struggling. You think that's going to be a bother? Oh, I
Yeah.
don't have time. Take 5 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Like such little things. And again, to stop being so worried about our time. And I can't, I have too much going on. Well, guess what? When you do those things, I tell people I'm a do-gooder.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because I'm a nice person. It just makes
We
me
call
feel
it
so darn good.
good mischief in our house. That's what we call it. Good
Yeah,
mischief. So
love
I'll
it.
take my oldest son out and be like, we're going to go do some good mischief.
Oh my God, I love it.
And he's like, okay. And we go and do nice things for people or,
Oh,
random acts of kindness or any of that. Because if
it
he's going to
feeds your
cause
soul.
mischief, and he will, because that's the kind of guy he is, I'd rather it be good
Beautiful.
mischief.
I love that. And that's just so beautiful. And I love that. I might have to steal it because, and again, about like time, when I say I'm so frustrated, oh my gosh, I have to go do something nice for someone, right?
Yeah.
Get out of my own grief or crankiness, go do
Yeah.
something nice for someone, go pay someone a compliment.
Yeah.
Here's
It
my
almost
other
feels
little thing that I
selfish
like to do.
sometimes because
So
I feel so good afterwards.
right? I don't know. Well, like I looked at you, and it has to be sincere. So like when
Yeah.
we said hello today, I looked at your hair, I'm like, that looks fabulous. And it does. I couldn't say it if I didn't mean it.
Yeah, I'm the
Um,
same way. I'm known as the woman on the subway or the street or in the grocery store who's like, that jacket is everything on you. Like, I will just
See,
randomly compliment people and they're like,
it's
oh,
beautiful.
thank you. I'm like, why wouldn't you?
Well, and you're teaching your children by example, right? And that's the thing. We don't have to like sit there, well, son or daughter, you need to go out and compliment people. Just teach by example. And I've
Just
done
do
that.
it.
And now my daughter is wonderful at doing that. And so is my son. And you know what? Here's the thing is that, and that's you're giving, 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 and with no attachment, right, to their reaction. And that's the other piece when I say, if you're going to do things, or like sometimes I wave and smile and the people look the other way, or they look and give me a look and I just laugh, like I just
It's
like, oh
funny.
God. And
Yeah.
some people crack up. So it's, just give with no attachment to what you're going to receive. And that leads into takeaway number 3. And I always say to people, if you do not remember anything else I say, when you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and you can't fix it, the magic answer is just show up.
Right.
Just show up. I don't know what to say. Just show up anyway. Just say that. I don't know what to say, but I'm here. I
Yeah.
don't know what to do, but I'm here. Just show up. Just show up. Lead with your heart. Be
Yep.
okay to get it wrong. If you say, I don't know if I should call,
Yeah.
leave a message. I don't know anyone. I've never gotten the feedback that someone's very offended from a text that said thinking of you, heart emoji. I don't know anyone who's very upset that someone left them a message and said, oh my gosh, I want to help, blah, blah. Like, because that's the piece that we're missing also, is that when we have that armor and we're so afraid to give too much, we're chipping away at our own soul.
Yeah.
We're chipping away because we are hardwired for connection. And when we connect with another human being, with a compliment, with a hello, here, let me help you. I don't know what to say, but I'm here. I don't know what to do. When you go to take out their garbage, and like in the TEDx talk I shared on that hardest time when my son was going through so much, and on one day when everything just fell apart, this beautiful neighbor, and I've still got the pot from the TEDx talk, she came to my house and she just set a little pot of daffodils on my front porch
Yeah. So
with a
nice.
little card that said thinking of you. I looked at that, I read it, and I cried for an hour.
Oh, I'm sure.
guess what? It's 13 years later and I'm still talking about that.
Of course, right? These tiny little things, these little gestures we make. And it's funny because it's the same for yourself. So, this is where when you talk about just showing up and when I talk about lead without permission, they start to kind of meld together.
Absolutely.
Because when we do that for ourselves and we just show up for ourselves and we lead without permission and we take all of that antiquated crap that has been built into our minds as, "Ooh, maybe I shouldn't," or I won't say anything," or "I don't want to bother anyone," or
Oh, how
no.
does that feel? How does that feel?
Yeah, doesn't it feel awful?
It feels awful.
Thank you so much for joining us for part 1 of Yvonne Heath's chat. I hope you join us for part 2, where you can hear the rest of Yvonne's 7 steps and a little bit more about how you can just show up. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Visit www.yorkmotivational.com for more information on my Super Type A Attempt at Being Zen, the coaching program, Lead Without Permission, or visit our contact page to reach out to Risha. Wishing you all continued balance and fulfillment on your road to Zen.